Well, Saudi Arabia was first founded in a smaller version of it way back in the mid-18th century when a religious sheikh by the name of Muhammad Wahhab and the first, one of the ancient Al-Saud, which is the ruling family ever since the 18th century of Saudi Arabia, formed an alliance. And it was an alliance based on the Al-Saud family protecting the religion, a reformist Islamic religion that we today call Wahhabism. And the state, as it was forming in Saudi Arabia, pledged to support the Wahhabis and the Wahhab religious people and to help them spread Wahhabism, which is a very puritanical form of Islam, very strict. And in fact, among the fundamentalist Salafi groups throughout the Islamic world, the Wahhabis are probably the strictest religious devotees anywhere in the Muslim world. And this alliance was first formed in the 18th century. Then there were ups and downs in the kingdom. The current Saudi Arabia was put together in 1932. It's the third Al-Saud state, the third state founded by the Al-Saud family. And the same alliance between the Wahhabi establishment and the Al-Saud family are the two key pillars of the state or the kingdom of Saudi Arabia even today.
Abdulaziz and his father began to reach out to the tribes and emirs who controlled the oases. One by one they fell in behind him, and in 1903 Abdulaziz felt strong enough to unify the lands, moving northwest into Qasim. The Al-Rashid was supported by Turkish troops with artillery, but Abdulaziz was undeterred.
We, the young ones, ate his lunch. Then he just jumped on his horse and started to strike out at them in all directions. He did not find Bin Rashid because he just started the battle and fled. Abdulaziz struck them on all sides until he was victorious. We, the young ones, ran after him. The scene turned to ashes, and Bin Rashid ran away.
The victory had been won, and Abdulaziz added Qasim to his lands. The Ottomans resorted to negotiations with Abdulaziz. Turkish garrisons were later withdrawn from Qasim. Abdulaziz's rule at this time extended only over the center of Arabia. But now his reputation for security and reliance on Islamic practice was to bring rewards elsewhere, in Al-Hasa to the east. Al-Hasa was a vast oasis, rich in dates, and it had at one time been under the Al-Saud. Now it was ruled by the Ottoman Turks. but they were unable to control the violence of the tribes who surrounded the oasis. The religious leaders in Al-Hasa had had close contacts with Riyadh for years. So in 1912, they sent a letter to Abdulaziz inviting him to come to Al-Hasa. Abdulaziz was afraid the British might replace the Turks in Al-Hasa. So, having tricked the tribes who surrounded Al-Hasa to move off to the north, Abdulaziz set off with 900 men. He was received by the people of the town, who gave him their allegiance.
And the Ottoman soldiers were scared, and they started firing recklessly in the air. In the morning, the Turkish governor tried to use force.
Eventually, the Turks surrendered.
The agreement was reached between King Abdulaziz and the Turkish governor Ahmed Nadim, who surrendered his authority and left with his 1,200 soldiers and military honor intact.
Victory in the east soon followed. Once the ruler of a landlocked state, Abdulaziz now had access to the sea, with all the wealth and contacts of overseas trade. Abdulaziz had taken Al-Hasa at a crucial moment. Britain and the Turks were about to go to war. The British needed to prevent Abdulaziz from further conquest in the Gulf. They signed a treaty with him in 1915, and the next year he went to Basra for talks to avoid being drawn into the war.
The relationship between Abdulaziz and Britain was very clear, with no grey areas. He addressed them frankly on the things he felt were right, and presented policies that showed both experience and sound judgment. So the British felt at ease dealing with him. They knew he was a wise man, and they should not make any trouble with him.
By the end of the war, Turkish power in the Arab world was destroyed.